Good evening. This is Sister Dipty. I'm based at the Brahma Kumaris in South Africa. It's really lovely to be here with everybody. It's amazing how at this time in the world, we see the need to be able to be so connected with the self. There's been a number of different conversations that we see people having today on how to draw out the best in these moments of challenge. I was talking to somebody earlier today. There was just a very, very deep feeling within that at this time, if I do not connect with myself in a powerful way, it is I look at the world with a vision that is usually negative. So today we have a very beautiful topic. And, in South Africa, we normally have these beautiful skies, and often with the rain, when it comes, we have the most beautiful rainbows. And I remember even as a child, how just being able to look at these rainbows, and they brought so much joy within. And so today we're going to look at a very real topic of the rainbow within. And as a child, I really enjoyed looking at the rainbows. But when my own spiritual journey began, it was a very, very beautiful time to actually see how the rainbow within me began to emerge. I think all of us in our life have the opportunity to go through different journeys. And as an individual too, being brought up in Africa, there was a time of a variety of challenges, growing up in the time of apartheid, and then also being faced with a number of energies of violence that we often face. And within all those moments, there's either my life could be very much influenced by the world outside, or I could emerge the rainbow within. And so my journey began about 35 years ago when I was first introduced to the Brahma Kumaris. And it was a very beautiful time within that journey that there was a beautiful space to really rediscover myself and to be able to find that real power within. I'm sure all of us, as we are together this evening listening, very much have the experience to emerge the best within us. But how does that journey begin? And I was thinking about how, for a long time in our life, we have found our identities out in the world. So often talk about how in the world people take so much of social mileage through their labels, through their positions, through their roles. And all of these energies give us mileage and a sense of identity as to who we are. And so usually the power that we experience is a power that is limited, because everything that we see in the physical way is bound to change. I remember there was a gentleman that once told me when I just started meditating, and he was saying to me, Dipty, at that point, I was much younger, and he said to me, you're still very young. These questions are very deep to look at. Rather use this time to really enjoy life. And yet what began to happen a few years later, that same person who was a successful businessman and was seeming to have a clear direction of his life, one day faced an unforeseen challenge. And he met up in an accident and he lost both his legs. Suddenly life around him began to change. And even though he was a so-called Mr. Jones, who was always very successful, life wasn't the same again. And in that period of time, he began to question himself and he began to ask himself, who am I? All the power that he had, all the identity that he had so-called created in his life, suddenly things changed. He couldn't be as active as he needed to be. He couldn't do the work that he could do. Life around him changed. And so, very often when we look at that rainbow, and on the outer circle of the rainbow, we see the red color. And often red is an indicator of power. But it is very, very essential to understand where it is that I get the power in my life. For a long time in our journey, that power may have come from my external identity, my material status, my social status, my profession, the different things that, yes, may have been important in my life, and they gave me a sense of identity and a sense of power. But very often that power, if not understood well, over a period of time, can have the potential to cause sorrow. So as my journey began to get deeper, I realized that the power, and as the rainbow within me began to emerge, I began to realize that the real power that I needed in my life had to come from within myself. And that real power is from a space of inner transformation. I cannot maybe change everything in my life around me. But what is really, really necessary is what I change within me. And so for me, power is that level of transformation. And as I work with that level of transformation from within myself, beautiful things can begin to happen. And so we see how, the outer circle of the rainbow, and I remember as a child starting with the energy of red, and red is usually powerful, but realize that that power really comes within my journey when I start my journey within. Because any form that is of the external is bound to go through a process of change. And then the next color that we see within that rainbow is the color orange. And for me, that was really that journey of the time of really transforming my thought patterns. We see how often in life, I can either make my mind into a rubbish bin, or I can make my mind into a jewelry box. And when I make my mind into that rubbish bin, I allow everyone and everything to dump into that rubbish bin. And then I live with it. What I put inside is what I live with. And so really the next color of the rainbow in my journey, that orange color, which in the world they often depict as the color of purity. There's a very, very beautiful space to say, I have a choice within my journey as to how I want to create the right quality of thoughts in my life. To choose between the thoughts in my life that either would cause me pain or sorrow or congestion or confusion, or rather to choose the thoughts that serve me, thoughts that heal me. Purity is a very beautiful energy of inner space of cleanliness, honesty, and innocence. And for me, that journey to gain that true inner power started really from that space of doing the honest, clean work within. Our journey of transformation can only really deepen at a very, very deep level when my first step is that of honesty. You know, in the Brahma Kumaris, Daddy Janki, who had been our spiritual head a number of years, and last year, at the age of 104, she had released her physical body. But one of the deepest lessons that I've always learned from Daddy was the journey of, in my spiritual journey, to keep the self very honest and to keep the self very clean. And I felt that when that journey within the self began in a very, very powerful way, beautiful things were beginning to emerge. A very, very beautiful space within it. So to emerge that inner transformation process, that beautiful red color of taking charge over the self, going into that step of inner power, and then the next orange space of that of purity, to deepen that space within the self, where I have the courage to be honest and clean within that journey. I feel it's only when we are able to clean that space within ourselves and do the honest work within that the real beauty of who we are begins to shine. Oh, deep within each one of us, and I experienced that in my own life's journey, that our natural nature is a very joyful nature. Yeah. I remember many, many years ago, I had been to the Brahma Kumaris in Mount Abu, India, and one of my very first few meetings with a very, very special being. And I remember just being so beautifully blessed by this beautiful thought that you are a soul who's happy. Your part is that of happiness. And even if you don't want to be happy, you'll always be happy. And I always took those words very, very alive in my own life, to realize that joy and that space of happiness is my natural nature. And I remember in my own life, the color yellow, which is the next color of the rainbow in that way, had always played a very, very significant role for me. And I've always enjoyed the beautiful flower, the sunflower. And as a child, I always grew sunflowers. And somebody asked me, why do you like sunflowers so much? And as an innocent child, I would say to them, the sunflower shines where the sun is. And in my life, I began to realize how deeply my life began to shine when I was able to truly face God, the pure sun, the sun of light, the sun of truth. And so how in this journey to deepen that inner power, to deepen that inner level of strength, I'm able to go through that space of firstly turning within, secondly going to that space of honesty and cleanliness. And it's like then the soul begins to blossom. And even though sometimes in our life, there may be things that have happened along the way, and that doesn't allow us to feel very nice inside. But I've always found that when you do sincere work on yourself, that which is your real innate nature will always begin to blossom in that way. And when that energy then begins to blossom, I find the fourth color that often comes up within that journey is the color of love. Yeah, the green part of the rainbow. And I always believe that when there's this level of love, there's a deep, deep sense of acceptance. If I really want transformation in my life, I need to accept myself the way I am and be giving myself the opportunity to work with the self. And so we see that journey of inner transformation, the power of turning it from the power of the world to an inner power, using that energy of honesty and cleanliness to clear out that space, and then to allow the lightness, the joyfulness to actually emerge. You know, when we try to bring change in our life, a change that is from a lot of tension and a change that comes from a deep, deep level of intensity in that way, then I find it becomes very, very difficult to bring about change. Now they say you can do so much more in your life when there's level of that lightness that comes. I found anything, as a child, I used to be an Indian classical dancer. I just loved it as a hobby. And I remember one day my dancing teacher saying to me that you'd be able to move to such a beautiful rhythm if you knew how to stay light, and that the music will move you to spaces of beauty and creativity that you may have never known before. And I always remember that line, and I think about it in my own journey at this time, that this energy of lightness, which then invites this fourth color, the green color of the rainbow, the heart, where the heart has the sense of acceptance and the heart has the sense of love. Love is a very, very powerful energy at this time. And I really found in my own journey, it was love that really brought the deepest level of transformation. Today, the world that we live in is so much on many, many levels, just connected with the external. And we are trying to seek from people, and we are trying to seek from situations. We're trying to seek from many things in our life, this energy of love. And usually it's like people, without knowing, start begging for love. And the reality is, the more desperate you become about it, the further it actually moves away from you. One of the most beautiful aspects in my journey with the meditation was awakening that energy of love, awakening the true heart. And it's amazing how when in the world, when we have to be tough and we need to survive and we need to be at it as such, that people often close their heart. And yet I found that the very thing that allows deep, deep change to take place in your life is really that energy of self-acceptance. And so over the years, I found one of the things that was very, very beautiful in my journey as a meditator, a beautiful aspect of the journey of transformation, was every day sitting in silence every morning and allowing that heart to open. To be really able to go deep inside the self in a very, very beautiful way and see myself for who I am realize the truth that was within my being, and letting the heart accept it. Sometimes we can be good to other people and we can say things to them that are so kind, and we can even say to them, but this is the truth, believe it, enjoy it. Don't you love who you are? And yet how often there could be this critical voice within the self, this critical voice that can at times criticize your own journey. And I found that as I deepened this journey and went deep into that space of touching the real self inside, there was a very, very powerful moment within my journey of feeling like the heart opening. And the heart opening was really that journey of self-acceptance. We may have been through many aspects of our life's journey, our upbringing, our surroundings, the culture, the relationships of our life's journey. It created a certain way in which we saw ourselves and a certain way in which we treated ourselves. And very often those belief systems that were created in that way became incredibly limiting into who we are and how we perceive ourselves. And I really found that opening the heart allowed the inner self to grow in that way from a sense of acceptance. I found it a very, very beautiful journey of just really going deep inside and knowing that beyond all the different things that life may have held, there's real gold. You know, in South Africa, one of the most beautiful experiences I had as a child too was going down the gold mines. You know, there are special places where you can actually go down the mine and to see how they extract the gold. And so I remember just being able to go on that journey. And we first went through such hard rock. You know, the cage goes down the mine and the surface was tough and hard, and they mined through all of that, and we were going deeper and deeper down the mine. And as we went really down, and it felt dark and a bit scary, but as we went to a certain point, you could see the gold. You could see the gold shining in the mines. It was an incredible space to actually witness and to see how much they had to do such hard work to mine that gold. But as that gold came out, it had its true value. And I always remember that scene in which I saw as a young girl. And I think about it in my own spiritual journey, that sometimes in our own life, we have to go down this mine of our own heart. And often on the top, it is still hard, or it doesn't hold that depth, and it may reject certain things. But you have to just dig deeper and deeper. And sometimes a point may come where you think, really, is there something inside me that is so valuable? And you still keep thinking about it in that way. And you journey. And I found each day for myself in my meditation, just really giving myself that opportunity to go deep inside. And the more and more I was able to break through those hard rocks of belief systems and social norms and certain aspects of life that may have hardened an experience. I must admit that my life wasn't that tough, but really the part of my being that is often a very deep one is an important part of that journey to unpack. And then when you touch that very core of your being, that's the time it feels like the heart has opened. And when I'm able to touch that part of my being, there's real growth that takes place. Green is also a color of growth. So when the heart opens, there's real growth. And when there's a deep, deep sense of inner security within my being, it is from that space that I can also accept others. And I find that my relationship and my love for other human beings grows very, very powerfully. You know, my personal experience, I come from an educational background, and I worked with a number of different aspects in education. And one of the things that became very real to me is that there is so much inner baggage that today people hold. And so even for learning to take place, one has to go through so much of that baggage and a lack of self-respect and the lack of inner security that people hold, that you have to go beyond all of that to actually reach that child. But as my journey as a meditator grew, and I found that deep sense of inner love and inner security and an inner space of self-respect, I was able to reach children and people in my career at a very, very deep level. It's like the love becomes natural. The love becomes a very nurturing space of being with others. And really I find that when that love within yourself is an authentic love, then you really serve other people. You know, in life you can be pleasing people or you can really be serving people. And I really find that when your love and your own inner security and your own space of stillness is powerfully there, that love becomes a very beautiful space in which people grow. And that takes us to that next whole aspect of the blue color. And that's the color of peace. And I find that peace is really a beautiful energy inside when my being is full of love. So I've started from that space of inner transformation, and I've deepened that space of honesty and cleanliness within myself, so that the innocence of my being begins to grow so that I can do the work on myself. Then there's a part of me that becomes light. And when that part is joyful and light in my space, I can accept the rhythms of life and I can flow within it to create that deep, deep transformation inside. And then as we looked at it after that, there's that deep space of love that grows. And when that love grows and the heart opens and the soul becomes very, very energized with that feeling within, it's like it creates a deep, deep space. For me, the peace that we're talking about here is like a space of deep, deep contentment. And when I'm in that space, I have a natural expression of life. They often talk about that as the chakra, the blue chakra, often also the throat. And that's the throat or the chakra of expression. And I find that when I am in that deep space of inner security, and I'm in that deep, deep space of love within myself, and my love for humanity grows, and I'm able to embrace life with that energy of love, then this peaceful energy, this blue energy that we talk about, the rainbow within, the energy of contentment grows. And within that energy of peace, there is a natural expression that comes. And I think today in the world, because people are not comfortable on the first 4 levels in their life's journey, one of the things in the world that we see people struggle with a lot today is the energy of communication. Yeah. And also on this level of communication, there's often so much of misunderstanding that people face, that misunderstanding then causes a lot of pain and sorrow and hurt in many people's lives. But when my heart is full of love, and then there's this natural energy of contentment, inner contentment that grows within my being, there's a deep, deep space within there where I can feel totally still. And that peace and that expression that comes within my space is one that's able to really deepen many things. You know, when your life is in that space of peace, your life is in a space of stability. And today we see in the world, people really struggle. So many things happen in life. And, you know, life goes through that constant change. And as that constant change of life is happening, very often people don't experience that space of stability from within the self. I find today in my own life and also in the journey with the people that we look at within life's journey in that way, really the necessity at a very, very deep level to embrace life with that space of peace and stability. I think today in the world, we see how things happening so suddenly. And we've seen how life has changed so suddenly. Somebody was saying to me the other day, these days I'm so afraid just to look at my WhatsApp. Because every time I receive a WhatsApp, it's either somebody's sick, somebody is in hospital, or somebody's died. There had been a serious outbreak of the pandemic, and we see that the energies were becoming more and more intense in that level. So the reality is these are the things we are facing in the world outside as such. But how do I respond? And that space of peace that I've created within myself is not just a space of just being quiet, but a space of deep, deep stability. Yeah. This morning when I was at a program and somebody was talking about this energy of fight mode and flight mode, and I was thinking about the third energy of the freeze mode. That so much situations may come up in our life and we could either be fighting through it or we may be running away from it. But sometimes we just become very numb. We are in that situation, but it's like we freeze. We become non-reactive, but from not a healthy space, but rather from a space that is usually of numbness. And so I find that the more and more I deepen this deep, deep peace within myself, I deepen this real experience within myself of deep inner contentment. My being becomes one that's very, very stable. And I found this has been my personal journey, that, right in the beginning when I started meditating, and I remember one of the teachers sharing and saying to me that when you meditate, you have to say to yourself, I'm a being of peace. And I remember right in the beginning, I would sit for meditation and say to myself, I'm a peaceful soul. And then there would be another part of me saying, you're such a liar. You're not feeling peaceful right now. And I used to say to myself, but yes, I am a peaceful soul. And I remember working through these energies that we're talking about, the energy of going inside, the energy of really being honest, being light, activating that love within, and then really feeling at peace with the self. And when I began to feel peaceful inside, it was very, very real. And I found that when situations in my life did come, and we all go through different things, when things did happen, there was a deep, deep sense of stability that comes within that journey. And then we realize that the true wisdom within ourselves begins to grow in a very beautiful way. And so, I think in my own life's journey, it was at that point that the real awakening in my journey began. I remember once somebody said to me, oh, just center yourself. And I said to them, center myself where? What do you want me to center? But as I began my own spiritual journey, and in the space, the true wisdom then began to grow. We often talk about that space of centeredness where my wisdom awakens. It's like, the level of understanding of the soul is awakened to a very, very deep space that is able to go beyond all the superficial waves of life. There may be so many superficial and artificial waves of life, and the knowledge that we had received from that may have brought us temporary pleasure and temporary sense of security. But I found that this energy that we talk about in that way, and that's the color of the rainbow, the indigo color, takes me deeper within myself. And as I go deep within myself in that way, I find that my life is then guided by true knowledge. And what is that true knowledge that within my own journey I had discovered? And over the years within the Brahma Kumaris, I found that these three questions had activated a very powerful space within my journey. The whole aspect of who am I, constantly checking who am I, and deepening this knowledge of understanding that I'm a soul, I'm a being of pure radiant energy, that my natural qualities are these 7 qualities that we're talking about tonight, and that how these qualities are my true nature. And so really that feeling that I'm an eternal being, and I really felt that this knowledge and this experience helped me a lot. I remember once, many years ago, I was involved in a car accident. And not by my own fault, but suddenly this accident had happened. And then the car capsized. And I remember as the car was rolling, the knowledge that I had received that I am an eternal being was so, so helpful. I remember whilst this car was rolling down, and because as a yogi over a number of years, I had practiced that I'm an eternal being, I'm energy, I'm a soul. That moment was so real that even though physically I was going through this experience in the car rolling over, I was in a space of clarity and stability because knowing I'm eternal and as a soul I won't die. And I was able to come out of that accident with a very clear mind. Fortunately, I didn't get hurt physically, but it was an amazing experience I had, that when I have true knowledge and a true experience of that which is most real to me, it supports me at the time of need, so that I could stay centered even whilst this car was rolling down as such. You know? And so this real knowledge of who am I, whom I belong to. Today in the world, everyone needs a sense of belonging. You know? I remember once in the kind of work I did, there was this little child that was struggling, and this child was orphaned, and this child was physically very, very ill, and how this child was never ever recovering until one day a couple decided, when they were in this home, to adopt a child, and how when they had this pull towards this child, and they had adopted this child. And after this child was adopted, it's like all the illness in the child just naturally disappeared. And it was so amazing as I was speaking to the social worker, just the experience that when a person feels a sense of belonging, how everything in your life begins to heal. And how I found on my own spiritual journey, the feeling of knowing who I am and whom I belong to, and to belong to that highest source, whom we call by many names, God, Allah, Shiva, Jehovah, by many names, that source of light, that supreme source. When I'm able to connect with that source, there's a deep, deep sense of belonging on this journey. And then the third question of why am I here? It really gives me a life of purpose, that I stay centered as to why I'm here in this world, and that I have a higher purpose to actually fulfill. It's a very, very beautiful feeling of when we talk about this energy of centeredness, you know, the indigo color that we look at, which is often the color of this, you know, they talk about the third eye of knowledge. They say when your third eye opens, the eye of awakening. It's like coming to the very, very essence of my being, a very, very beautiful space to be in. And so really that color and the knowledge of knowing who I am, whom I belong to, and why am I here. And that also gives me a deep essence and understanding of time. Because I feel today in the world we are in very, very significant times. I just don't want to call it critical times, but very powerful and significant times of transformational change. And when I stay very centered in who I am within this journey, beautiful things can then begin to happen. And then finally, that lovely color at the core of the rainbow, the violet color. is the color of bliss. It's the color of connection. And I really find that when you are able to go deep inside yourself and really stay centered in who you are, and then create this connection with the highest source. Meditation or yoga is really that journey of connection. And so, also during this month of June, many places celebrate it as Yoga Month. And the word yoga just means connection. And so really the connection with that highest source of truth and love and purity and inner spiritual power, that source, that almighty source. And the more and more the soul is able to connect with that source, the joy, the strength, the power, the bliss that emerges within one. It's a very special space, When they talk about bliss, is that source of real joy that comes beyond the senses, so that the stimulation of my joy within my life is not just coming from the external, it's not just coming from people and situations and places, but when I touch truth, when I touch purity, when I touch God, and when this energy really deepens within my space, there's a lovely, lovely feeling of connection. And that's the feeling of bliss. So this was a wonderful opportunity for me when I was given this topic of the rainbow within, and I was thinking about it. Really, it was my journey of transformation from a very outer space where the power and the identity could be based on that which was so gross and limited, to really going into a step of inner transformation. And as we talk about the red, the orange, the yellow, the green, the blue, the indigo, the violet, it's like all these colors that come closer and closer within our being, from that space of turning into inner power, going into a space of honesty and cleanliness, the purity, going to the space of lightness and joy, the yellow color, and the green, where the love in the heart opens, to the peace, the blue, the contentment within the being, and then the centeredness, the indigo color, of just having the true knowledge and staying centered to the truth and the real energies of life, to the color of violet, the true spiritual color they talk about, and the color of real connection with that source. Such a beautiful energy to go into the depth of and deepen in that kind of space. So it's a lovely journey that we've been on together this evening. But I would now like to guide you through a little meditation where we can take these same concepts that we took up and just go into a space within, and let's just go into that inner journey. Okay? So once again, I invite you to sit comfortably, not too comfortable and laid back that you may fall off to sleep. So keep your body in an upright position. Just relax your body. Take a deep breath in. And take this time to go within and be with the self. I take this moment within my life's journey to see the rainbow within. I activate my own inner power in this color red. I start this journey of my own inner power, a journey of self-transformation. In the stillness of my being, I'm able to take the time to clean out the thoughts that no longer serve me, to be able to look at myself with that space of honesty, to deepen my inner journey. I realize that life is a dance, it's a rhythm. And so no matter what life may have held for me, I take a deep breath in and embrace it with a sense of lightness. If I really want change in my life, I need to stay light. I awaken the light within my being and I stay light. My heart opens and there's a deep, deep sense of acceptance within. In this color green, there's the opening of my heart. A deep, deep sense of acceptance of my true self, to allow the journey to grow. I'm able to embrace others, and I'm able to embrace life with this energy of love. As I go deeper within myself, the soul begins to feel so peaceful, so calm. There's a deep inner sense of contentment. And I am a being that experiences deep inner security and stability. I feel a deep sense of centeredness within myself. I am deeply centered on the seat of the soul in the center of the forehead as this being of pure, radiant energy and light. I am stable in the awareness of who I am, whom I belong to, and why I'm here. This energy of radiant energy, of light in the center of the forehead begins to sparkle. I stay centered in the awareness of who I am. And in this moment of knowing who I am, I'm able to connect with that highest source, the Supreme Soul, the light of love that knows me, understands me, and accepts me for who I am. In this connection, the soul is able to experience a deep space of inner joy, of bliss. I keep all these energies and colors of my life alive as I allow the rainbow within me to continue to shine. I stay in this beauty. I stay in this experience. Om Shanti.